Welcome to your F1 Live post-race show with me, Rosanna Tennant, coming to you live from the paddock straight after the Mexican Grand Prix, and it is absolutely hectic. So many people in the paddock, people queuing in the paddock club to get into Forest Sol, to listen to Kygo playing out. What a race we've just seen. Max Verstappen taking the win. Absolutely thrilled to say I'm joined by Mercedes reserve driver Nick de Vries. Nick, good afternoon to you. What have we just seen? What a weekend we have had.
Well, it was a bit of a difficult day at the office for us. Obviously, quite an exciting fight between Lewis and Sergio towards the end, especially through all the back markets. The Ferrari swapped positions to try and hunt down Pierre, which was obviously a bit of a long shot, and they swapped back at the end. And then to the midfield, you could see the kind of overcut and staying out long kind of prevailing. So interesting race strategically.
So many things to talk about. Glad we've got you for the post-race show. Let's take a look then at our results from the 2021 Mexican Grand Prix. Max Verstappen taking the win then in front of an incredible crowd here at the Autódromo Hermanos Rodriguez, ahead of his championship rival Lewis Hamilton, and then in P3 Sergio Perez on the podium in front of his home crowd. And then let's take a look further down the order. Pierre Gasly came into this weekend so strong, everyone thinking that Honda power unit would prevail, and as it has done, Pierre Gasly P4 ahead of Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, Sebastian Vettel up to P7 in the Aston Martin, Kimi Raikkonen P8, Fernando Alonso P9, and then Lando Norris just scraping into the points in the McLaren P10. Further down the order then we go, and it's P11 for Antonio Giovinazzi, boxed a little early, we'll talk about that later on. Then Daniel Ricciardo P12 ahead of Esteban Ocon P13. Lance Stroll managed to make it up to P14, then Valtteri Bottas, a difficult day for him, as Nick just alluded to, P15 for him with the fastest lap, but of course no point awarded. Then George Russell, plenty of battles for him this afternoon, P16 ahead of his teammate Nicholas Latifi P17, Nikita Mazepin P18 ahead of Mick Schumacher and Tsunoda, who are not classified because they DNF'd. Well, there we go. Let's go to our first interview of the afternoon, and it's Pierre Gasly. Pierre, P4, just off the podium. How satisfied are you with that, with this whole weekend?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic weekend, I must say. Qualifying yesterday went extremely well with the fifth position, and yeah, today I think we could not dream of a better result for us. So we managed to pull away from the Ferraris behind, have a very good pace all weekend, and finishing with a...
Got a handshake here from Dr. Helmut Marko. Oh, look at that. Just sensational for you at the moment, Pierre. It's all going well. First race of a triple header. We're expecting more of the same in Brazil?
Yeah, we'll try. I mean, last time we were there, we finished second. It was obviously a very, very good race. But yeah, we'll try to do well. I think it's quite similar with Mexico. We showed some really good pace this weekend, so I don't see any reason why we should not do it again in Brazil.
Well, rest well, and we will see you next weekend in Sao Paulo. Congratulations, Pierre Gasly. Let's bring in then two at once. Here we go. Come together. Come in together. I don't know if we're allowed to break the bubbles, but we are. That's what we're doing here on the post-race show.
We'll share it.
You can go together. Why not? Carlos, P6 for you today. Lando, P10. Points for you. Were you expecting more, Lando? Yes. A point. 1 point.
Yeah. 1. Yeah.
Tell me about your race.
Sorry. I mean, it was a good race from my side. I don't think we could have done a lot more. I got a bit unlucky in turn 1 with where I had to go with Bottas. But apart from that, yeah, I think it was decent. 1 point is more than nothing. Not a lot comparing to these guys, the guys we had to beat today. But
anything you'd like to ask Carlos at this stage in terms of how to beat them next weekend?
Is it the barge board? Mid-deflector. Ah, yeah. I told you since the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I can't actually hear you, but it looks like you're having a wondrous time of it. Okay.
Trash talking.
Trash talking. Carlos, P6 for you today. A little bit of conversation going on in terms of positioning you guys on track. Are you pleased with how it played out?
Yeah, I mean, very pleased because we did a very good job as a team. Unlucky from my side at the start, a bit like Lando, just the 2 crashes were right in front of me. I had to take a void in action and lost 2 positions that I shouldn't have lost. From there on, it was all about the pace, and honestly, this weekend I've been very quick and again managed to put a very strong pace, strong tire management, managed to get a shot at going for Gasly. Then we decided to swap back the cars, a bit messy there on the radio, but I think we executed well as a team the whole strategy thing.
Who's going to win P3 in the Constructors?
Eh?
Who's going to win? Who's going to get P3 in the constructors?
I think it's going to be tight. I think these guys in Brazil and Qatar, Abu Dhabi also should be quick, no?
Long corners, I don't know about that.
And Saudi Arabia.
We'll just say it'll be a good fight.
Saudi
we can't
Arabia
wait.
is perfect for you.
We can't wait to watch the good fight.
Carlos isn't very good in the high-speed corners. So.
The McLaren is very good in the high
Well, plenty to work on then. We've got a triple header, of course. We'll see you next weekend, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ciao.
Wow, what a crowd, Nick. Sorry about that. Turn my back on you there.
I can't understand anything from here. Zero.
You can't
I
hear
took
it from
out
there.
my.
I can't hear it from here. They were having a wonderful time chattering about trash talking each other. Of course, that P3 battle so tense between Ferrari and McLaren. But actually, having spoken to Pierre Gasly, AlphaTauri right up there this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Pierre is continuing to do a great job. I mean, weekend out, they are around and in the top 5. So that's very impressive. It looked like a quite easy, straightforward race for them. Ferrari was quick, and I think Lando did very well to come into the points from the back and staying out long and going for the kind of overcut and benefiting from the kind of compromising race Daniel had with a damaged car and lack of pace, which was obviously then holding up Valtteri and Giovinazzi.
Well, you mentioned Daniel Ricciardo's damage. Of course, we need to go right back to the race start, Nick. It all got a little crazy out front with Valtteri Bottas, the pole sitter being spun around. What could he have done? I felt like he wanted to push Max further, but he didn't quite go the whole hog. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, there was a car with space on the straight, so Max took the space and used the opportunity to try and outbrake both Valtteri and Lewis on the outside, which he did very impressively. And then I think, Daniel just slightly locked up and then was just unfortunate to just tap Valtteri, which was obviously not intended, but just a race accident.
Who impressed you at the start? Because it was kind of like you had to really avoid all of the chaos unfolding around you. Who stood out to you at that point?
Yeah, Fernando was very close to hit Valtteri, but obviously he just managed to avoid him and finally did decide to cut turn 3 to stay out of trouble. And again, they went for a long first stint and managed to get into the point, so it seemed to prevail in this race.
Yeah, he managed to avoid it. Sergio Perez also went over the grass, but of course had to give that place back. So tricky to manage that, I imagine. What's the engineer telling you at that point? Or you just know that innately?
Well, I think Sergio saw something happening on the right side of him and he just bared out quickly to avoid any trouble. I did thought Charles gained the position, but I might have missed that and haven't seen that correctly. As Carlos also rightfully said, he lost out on 2 positions he should not have lost out on. But yeah, it was an exciting and eventful start.
Well, I think we can now hear from Charles Leclerc as well. Charles Leclerc talking to Lawrence Barretto in the pen a little earlier on. Let's hear from the Ferrari driver. A big day for him, finishing P5 ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz, P6, who we've just heard from. Here's Charles Leclerc, though, in the media pen a short time ago.
Good solid points today, but it sounded like you were frustrated with the pace and the tyres in the closing stages.
I think the first set of tyres were very good. With the medium, I was very competitive. On my side, we went very early to try and put some pressure on Pierre in front for him to stop, and let Carlos go long to create a tyre delta as well for the end of the race, which everything worked pretty well. But then once we went on the hard, on my side, I struggled massively. Carlos a little bit less, but still we didn't have the pace of Pierre in front, so we didn't quite make it. But I think today it shows the good team spirit there is, and yeah, that's good to see. We maximized everything today, I think.
And important for you both to score on a day where McLaren only got 1 point.
Yeah, exactly. This is very important. So it's good. It's a good day.
Was it hard for you to give up that place? I know it's all about the team, but was it hard for you to give up that place?
No, because it was already discussed before. So there was just one lap where they asked me to let him by, but I was overtaking, I think, a blue flag car in front of me, so I didn't do that lap. And then the next lap, I was asked to not do it anymore. And then we did do it a bit later on, but overall everything was clear. And as soon as I've been asked, I did it.
Positive day for Ferrari as they try to gain momentum through this triple header and try to get that all-important P3 slot in the Constructors' Championship. But so many more topics and narratives to talk about at the start, Nick. I want to talk about Esteban Ocon being sandwiched by Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher with really no one having anywhere to go. What did you make of that altercation?
It's always tricky here. You see everyone coming into that turn 1, turn 2, and there's no real space for everyone at the same time, and it's bunching up. And yeah, then you get these kind of tricky, intense moments. I think it was no one's really fault, but fortunate for us, definitely all of them, because actually everyone lost out on it and no one actually gained anything from it, so unfortunate.
Absolutely. In the end, it was Esteban Ocon who managed to finish P13, so he managed to stay in the race. Let's hear from Esteban Ocon now, talking in the media pen a little earlier on.
Difficult, really, from the start when you just got sandwiched between two cars.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, you know, the start incident is one thing, but we knew, you know, it was going to be a difficult weekend, you know, with the engine penalty starting from the back, but, you know, we fought really hard until the end. You know, there was some good action, some good fighting with many different cars. It didn't go, you know, our way all the time. Maybe with a perfect race, we could have been in the points, but, you know, that's how it is. We will be back on the next one.
In terms of the performance of the car this weekend, it's sort of been up and down. Are you hopeful that you might be stronger in Brazil on that type of circuit?
Yeah, it was performing pretty well in the race, which is encouraging. Of course, we didn't have the quali pace that we wanted, but you know, we saved 2 points with Fernando, you know, on that weekend. So yeah, all in all, it's not all negative, but yeah, we need to come back stronger in Brazil.
Two people who lost out with that sandwich effect at the start were Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher. And Yuki Tsunoda had a difficult weekend in terms of knowing he'd take a penalty coming into the weekend, but actually he'd worked incredibly well with Pierre Gasly yesterday in qualifying. What did you make of how expertly AlphaTauri managed that tow, Nick?
Yeah, I feel sorry for him to end the weekend like that, because I think he deserved so much more. He showed great pace throughout, you know, Friday and qualifying. It's obviously his first time here, and he was immediately up there in practice, and yeah, I felt like he just had a very strong weekend. And obviously the penalty then puts you on the back foot, and then you're in the kind of mess at the start, and then yeah, he wasn't able to get the result he deserved. But I think he, in normal conditions, would have had a top 10 finish.
Well, let's hear from Yuki Tsunoda now, talking in the media pen after his DNF early on in the race.
Hi Yuki, can you put into words how you're feeling now after such a frustrating start to the race?
It's so shame. Just we know that the car is good, so you know there's a lot really big opportunity to score points, that big points. But yeah, it's so shame. Just like yeah, I think just unfortunate. You know, the car next to me got sandwiched, and yeah, that car hit me at the back of the tire and just, you know, clips it also. Yeah, so just unfortunate.
Did you think initially you might be able to still get going, or did you know instantly as soon as you had the contact that you couldn't continue?
Yeah, I couldn't continue, I think. The car got quite a lot damaged, so yeah.
Can you take positives from this weekend? You've been so strong up until then, and I know that Christian obviously had those comments, but it's been really strong for you.
Yeah, overall the race week was, yeah, really good, except the race, just so shame out of the race, but yeah, overall I think it was a good step compared to previous races.
I feel like there are positives for Yuki to take away from this weekend. On the other side of things, it was Mick Schumacher who also got a bit of air in that confusion and that sandwich. Difficult for Haas. He'd started 14th. There was quite a lot of potential for Mick this weekend, but obviously dashed at the first turn.
Yeah, they're obviously having a very tough time. They were able to maybe potentially capitalize a little bit on the others' penalties, but unfortunately got tangled up in yeah, the mess in turn 1. But it would have been yeah, a chance to see how long they would have been able to kind of resist the pressure from the quicker cars around them. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be today.
Absolutely not. I can't wait to see what Mick Schumacher can eventually do. Perhaps that'll be 2022. Perhaps we'll have to wait a little longer. We don't need to wait too long, though, to hear from him. Let's hear from Mick Schumacher now, talking to Lawrence Barretto in the pen.
This was a race of so much opportunity today, and then it only lasted a few corners. Can you put into words how you're feeling right now?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, those things are, you know, they happen. it's not the first time for me it happened in my career, and I'm sure it won't be the last one. But overall, I was just looking forward to driving here, learning, and hopefully then next year when we have a better car, I'll be here and attack well.
Can you take some other positives from this weekend?
Of course, we always can take positives. Even if it's the worst weekend ever, there'll always be positives because you learn from it.
Well, at the start, it all sort of came down to Daniel Ricciardo having that lock-up. People in commentary boxes around the paddock were perhaps saying he should pick up a penalty. What did you guys make of it in the Mercedes garage?
Well, I think the incident in turn one was very unfortunate and probably classified as a racing incident. I think it was also hard to kind of penalize it, but yeah, just an unfortunate situation. But what happened afterwards was probably even more frustrating because obviously Daniel took, Valtteri almost out of the race, and then later Valtteri lost position to him after they both boxed when Stroll went off, and we assume Daniel's car was damaged because he was struggling on pace, and then basically that compromised Valtteri's whole race. So it was not just turn one, but actually the whole race.
There were two chapters, weren't there, to their story and to their race together, and it was so difficult.
And then we jumped them on the kind of second stop, and then we had a bad pit stop, and then dropped back behind again. So
one to forget, I feel, for Valtteri. Well, maybe not yesterday, but definitely Sunday in Mexico. But how difficult was it, from the data you were seeing in the garage, for Valtteri to get close to Daniel? Because that's what we were finding, that you just can't get close to make a pass.
Yeah, we knew going into this race that overtaking here is extremely difficult with the nature of the kind of layout and track. So, yeah, once you lose track position, you're really in trouble. We were hoping obviously that there would have been an opportunity, but unfortunately it appeared to be too difficult to really make a move. There was once a close moment in turn 4-5, there was a bold try, but yeah, not enough.
No, we all sort of went, oh no, relax, sit back down. So Daniel Ricciardo, a disappointing day for him, finishing outside the points. He comes home P12. Let's hear from him now.
Daniel, busy afternoon for you out there, particularly at the start, and then you did a good job trying to hold Bottas off.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a pretty painful race, I'm sure for both of us after lap one. Yeah, I've just seen a replay now for the first time, and at the time I remember, so I had a good launch and whatever, slipstreamed, and we're looking pretty good. I was alongside, I think, Perez into one, and I locked initially, and then I collected it, and sorry, there's another replay, so I'm trying to see. Actually, it's I still feel bad because the race was done, but let's say I feel if there could be a way slightly better now after seeing that. It actually looked like I locked before kind of the entry point, and then I gathered it up again, and I think it just looks like obviously Valtteri's come in to kind of close the apex, and then it's me, I think Perez, and there's basically not enough room for all of us. So it was actually a lot smaller hit than I thought. So frustrating to have this. It's the nature of the beast, obviously, with the sport, and lap one incidents can happen, and obviously the cars are pretty fragile as well. You just hit at the wrong angle, and a lot of things kind of go breaking. So sorry, I'm a bit lost. I don't know. Just to obviously have the race from here to here in a few seconds. That's the disappointing part and the sad part of the sport sometimes.
And I guess the car felt like you couldn't really compete or fight back thereafter?
Yeah, it was tough. We had a little bit of damage to the right side, because then I got hit in turn 6 by, I think it was Russell, I heard. I mean, I had the broken wing, so I was just trying to get back to the pits, and got a bit of a knock as well. So we definitely had a bit of damage. We were still able to hold off Valtteri, but we were not fighting for position. So let's say a pretty long and painful afternoon for both of us. I saw him after, just again, I hadn't seen a replay yet, but obviously I was the one that went into him, so I saw him to apologise in any case. And let's say I see why the stewards now called it a racing incident, but in any case, it's not the way you want the race to go.
Hard luck. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks.
very chatty Daniel Ricciardo said he was a little bit lost. And when we were hearing him saying that he was sort of pulling alongside Perez, we sort of both looked at each other, not quite sure that we saw the same start as Daniel Ricciardo remembers, perhaps.
Well, he was watching the replay, right?
Yeah, so maybe, yeah.
No, I mean, I think we should just leave it as a racing incident. I mean, everyone is pushing into turn one, and it's very easy to just subtly lock up the inside front, and then I think it was just unfortunate that there was not enough space.
No, absolutely. Well, lots of mayhem, and we actually got Daniel Ricciardo walking off behind, and I can't tell you, behind our camera crew, it's utterly brilliant. So busy here in the paddock, and still up there, fans trying to get a glimpse of drivers shouting out. I'm quite excited. I can see Checo in the media pen at the moment. I think it's going to go off again.
We'll give up soon. We'll give up talking.
Look at him. He's man of the moment to get onto that podium. Well, before the race, I had a little chat with Christian Horner, and he was saying, actually yesterday they underperformed. Would you agree with that almost, that it was Red Bull lacking rather than you guys jumping on a bit?
Well, it's true that Red Bull was very dominant throughout Friday and actually also Saturday morning, so I kind of agree to that. I think Red Bull didn't manage to extract their potential in qualifying, but at the same time, I think we managed to put all the puzzle pieces together and do the job, and especially Valtteri, did an awesome lap, and yeah, good job on him to stick it on pole.
You've got to perform when it counts at the right moment for the right performance, haven't you? Well, let's hear from Christian Horner now, team principal of Red Bull. I'm sure he's a happy man at the moment. He's been talking to Ariana Bravo.
Yesterday you said you were disappointed slightly with the result in qualifying, but I imagine that today your mood is very different.
Look, that was a massive result for us here in Mexico. Checo on the podium, first ever Mexican on a Mexico Grand Prix podium. Max getting that important victory, so 1 point away in the constructors. We extended the lead in the drivers by 7, so a big day for us today.
Definitely a big day, and as you said, the energy here out there in Forest was absolutely mental for Checo and Max there. How does it feel as a team to be able to give Checo that opportunity, and seeing him up there, it must have been so special?
It's very special. I think, Checo, he's been finding his form the last 3 or 4 races and getting stronger and stronger. I thought he was going to get Lewis at the end there, but he's doing a great job for us, and just really delighted to see him up on the podium. And in the constructors, it's so important for us to close that gap. So 1 point away from Mercedes, 4 races to go. Everything to play for. Everything to play for.
Now, looking at Max, that move around turn 1 was absolutely incredible. Were you expecting to actually get the lead and then for it to be what seemed like such a controlled effort from Max the rest of the race? He was really unchallenged.
Well, I think when he turned up this morning, you could just see there was a real determination in his eyes and in his conviction about the race ahead, and he was totally optimistic about this race. So. He managed to find a bit of space. He braked so late. I thought he missed his braking. He was so much later than the other guys, but made the corner, made the lead, and from that point, it was a pretty straightforward afternoon for him.
It absolutely was. Well done on today. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great to hear from Christian talking to Ariana, and we were just talking while we were listening to that interview at the same time because we're multi-talented. That 1 point gap, so critical, but actually Valtteri Bottas playing a very key role this afternoon, taking that potential to score the fastest lap point by Red Bull. Then they would be level pegging, Nick. I've explained it badly. You're looking at me blankly, but what we've agreed is that Valtteri played a very important role today for Mercedes, taking away that fastest lap point from Red Bull.
Certainly. Obviously, to score the point for the fastest lap, you have to finish in top 10. But if you don't, you can still take the point away from the person that had the fastest lap in top 10. So, yeah, Valtteri played a great role in doing that, and that resulted in still a very minimal and marginal lead for Mercedes.
I can't believe it's 4 races to go and it is this close. It's unbelievable, just 1 point separating them. We'll look at the Constructors' Championships a little later on, and just seen Max talking to the media. He looks super pumped up, super excited as well, of course, leading the championship now as well. So a difficult day, on the other hand, for Valtteri Bottas. So let's hear from him now, talking to Lawrence Barretto.
Hey Valtteri, challenging day really from those opening few moments.
Yeah, very, very tricky, and for me obviously quite compromised with the first corner incident. And then I was stuck behind cars that I couldn't pass, and was really tricky. Also quite limited with the engine and brake temperatures, so I couldn't attack many many laps in a row. So I had to go, back and forward, and couldn't find a way to progress.
In terms of the rest of the race thereafter, you spent most of the time behind Daniel. Was it quite frustrating not being able to get through?
Yeah, it was tricky. They obviously say they have the same power unit. They have good straight line speed, and he was defending well, and I just couldn't find a way.
But you were still able to do something for the team at the end, that fastest lap, at least to take the point away from Red Bull.
At least 1 point, yeah, that's something. Obviously, a lot less than what I am today, but not my lucky day.
Not a good day, not a lucky day for Valtteri Bottas, but of course we will reconvene in a week's time and perhaps he'll be able to pull it all together in Brazil. But let's head back now to F1's Tech HQ and join F1's tech analyst, Sam Collins, who's been looking at the tyre strategies. And Sam, Nick and I were discussing before we came on air that if you went long today, you were going to be probably one of the winners. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think I probably would, Rosanna, and that's just because I've got the data behind me, but it's not quite as simple as that. Coming into the race weekend, we had 5 possible different race strategies that could have worked on paper. Going into the Grand Prix itself, that had been whittled down to essentially 2 viable race strategies, a 1-stop and a 2-stop. And the 2-stoppers, we didn't think it was going to be as out of the window as it was. And as you can see, the drivers who did do their 2-stoppers, just keep an eye on Esteban Ocon. He started on the softs, made them last quite a long time compared to some of the mediums. Then lots of other drivers trying the 2 stops, and they were all down the bottom half of the field, partly down to the pace of the cars, but also down to a huge spate of pit stop errors from mechanics in the pit lane. Not quite sure what that's all about, but that's why you find Valtteri Bottas down here in 15th position. Now, he tried the conventional strategy, start on a medium tyre, but then he had that moment at the first corner. Then he went onto the hard and basically put him onto the alternate standard strategy, start on the hard, go deep, and then go on to the medium, try to go to the end. But he was so far down the order after a pit stop problem in the middle that the only thing left available to him was to use up his last 2 sets of worn softs to go for that fastest lap. And sure enough, it took a point off Red Bull Racing, and that could be crucial later in the season. Then up at the top, you see the main battle. Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez. Perez went long. Red Bull were really clever with the way they used Perez, because what they did is they kept Perez in a position to cover off whatever Lewis Hamilton could do. So Hamilton, he stopped quite early. His medium tyres were going off. He was using them up too quickly. He was a bit in the dirty air of Max Verstappen as well. And so he had to pit earlier. Verstappen, he was sitting pretty clear air, got to go through to the end, and pretty much the race was decided at that point. But he picked up his pace straight away after that. Despite this, even in the lead, Sergio Perez was left out there. And the reason Red Bull left him out there is they knew he could probably hunt him down towards the end of the Grand Prix. And he nearly managed to get him for 2nd position. And then what you're actually going to see is, you can't see it on this graphic particularly, but Perez had a brand new set of shiny, soft tyres that he could have put on the car and gone after the fastest lap. But what Red Bull decided to do instead of that was to try and go for 2nd position and take it off Hamilton. Had they aborted that, sent Perez in to get those soft tyres, take that fastest lap away from Valtteri Bottas, because Perez on new softs would be much, much quicker than Hamilton would have been and Bottas, and that would have given you a much different result, and ultimately Red Bull a few more points. Rosanna, back to you in the paddock for the latest news.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you for crunching the numbers, looking at all the data for us and all the tyre strategies. Now let's focus our attention on the top 3. Sergio Perez making it onto the podium in front of his home crowd. And just going back to the tyres and strategy, he sort of felt like he was very comfortable on those tyres when he was talking back to his engineers, sort of saying they're getting better and better at the earlier stages of the race.
Yeah, that was surprising me to see that he seemed to just gain and gain and gain speed, and his tyres were good. So that's why I decided to go long. But on the other hand, they could have also gone for an undercut on Lewis and forcing Lewis to box, and then obviously creating that buffer for Max. But either way, they were very strong today, and I think they just had a little bit the upper hand in terms of pace.
Absolutely, and Sergio Perez giving the crowd something to shout about. I mean, not that they really needed even more of an excuse. They've been shouting and partying all weekend
They were
long.
very passionate, very passionate.
Very passionate. That is
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
way of putting it. Have you loved being here in Mexico? Because even as an English person, I've loved it because it just kind of sucks you in, doesn't it? The passion.
Well, I think Formula One in general is doing great. I mean, in Austin, there were 400,000 people across the weekend. Here, I think 380, 370, and everyone is loving the championship battle. And yeah, the Latin Americans are super passionate and exciting, so it's good to see. It's
Yeah,
good to
it
see.
certainly is. It's just weekend after weekend it's delivering, isn't it? Just the most brilliant racing and just atmosphere after atmosphere. It's just brilliant to be part of Formula One and watch Formula One at the moment. Let's hear from then the man of the moment, not okay on the top step of the podium, but he was on the third step, and that is quite enough for the Mexicans here. Let's hear from Sergio Perez.
Checo, I saw the emotion when you got out the car in the stadium. You must be so satisfied to become the first Mexican on the podium here.
Yeah, it's obviously very special, you know, to be on that podium with everyone out there. You know, they've done a tremendous effort, and I'm so happy for my country as well that we got this result for them.
It was quite the race for you. Ended up on the grass right at the start, then you hunted down Lewis. Didn't quite have enough at the end.
Yeah, we didn't have quite enough there at the end, but we gave it our best. I think the undercut was a possibility. Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
How satisfying it though overall, such a strong weekend, a third really strong weekend for you overall. You're building quite some momentum.
Yeah, we just have to keep pushing, keep our heads on. It's been a good weekend for the team as a team, and we just have to keep pushing hard to try to get more points for the team and also for the constructors.
Great, so a few words in Spanish to finish.
Great to see Sergio Perez on the podium, and the celebrations are still going on.
Yeah, I kind of want to celebrate with them. Kygo is amazing.
I know, we keep on being like, oh, it's just the music playing. They're like, no, that is actually Kygo on the stage.
Should we drop them
Amazing.
here and run?
Yeah, run, go. So a great weekend, I would say, for Sergio Perez, leaving with a podium position. Let's then look at the second step of the podium. Lewis Hamilton saying on the radio to Bono at the end, I gave it everything. I guess that's true because he's a 7-time world champion. He knows what he's talking about, right?
Of course, yeah. I think Lewis really, extracted everything out of the package he had, and probably this was the maximum. Obviously, if we would have been able to stay ahead in lap 1, then maybe it would have been slightly different, because I think track position here was really crucial. But you also have to give it to Red Bull, because Max has been, basically dominating the weekend except qualifying. So I think inherently they had a slightly better and quicker package than the Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hear from the 7-time world champion, now trailing Max Verstappen by a fair few more points. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton.
Hey Lewis, is it a case of mixed emotions? Obviously didn't quite get the win you were hoping for, but managed to hold off Checo right at the end.
Yeah, I feel positive in the sense that I had a good race. I did everything with the car that I had, and the car was not good today. So I didn't make a mistake at the start. Obviously, I was on the inside, so I couldn't brake as late as the guys that are obviously on the clean line. But had a good start, and then after that was just trying to manage the tires. Had a good pit stop, and then to keep Sergio behind was obviously in a much faster car this weekend. When you've got Sergio up behind you pushing you like that, you know the car is fast. And so, I'm glad I was able to keep at least those two apart in terms of getting a 1-2 for their team, and we move on and keep fighting.
How are you feeling about things? Obviously the car performance this weekend's been a bit up and down, and we're running out of races in the championship.
I mean, they've had the fastest car most of the year, so it's not a surprise. Wish we were a little bit quicker this weekend, but today we were a long way off, so I don't really understand that. But we'll go back to the drawing board and try and come back next week stronger.
Great stuff. See you there. Thank you.
Back to the drawing board, Nick. We've only got a fair few days until we're in Sao Paulo racing again. Have they got enough time, Mercedes, to find some more performance at a track where you would probably think Red Bull would go better at Interlagos?
What are you judging that on?
Huh?
What are you judging that on?
Tight, twisty.
Tight, twisty feeling? Well, I don't know.
Maybe Max has gone so well that I remember that wet drive back in 2016, I'm guessing, I think it was.
Yeah, it was that was a nice race. But yeah, I think at the moment the championship fight and the competitiveness between the two teams is so high and so strong that it's almost impossible to predict who has the upper hand. And I mean, if Max would not have gotten in front in turn one, then probably or possibly the outcome of the race would have been different. So I think it's hard to have any clear predictions, and we are lucky enough to witness an exciting fight all the way till the end.
You're right, we're ripping up the rule book because nothing plays out as we think it will as we go into these race weekends. Lewis talked about managing the tyres. We heard from our race winner, Max Verstappen, him asking his team to check his left front because I think he was worrying a little bit about graining. Were you guys in the Mercedes garage at that point a little bit like, haha, here we go, a little weak point maybe? Was that a moment of joy for you guys?
Joy. Well, I think Max had it very much under control. And as I already touched on, I think they dominated the weekend except qualifying, and ultimately he did an extremely strong performance and deserved the win.
Yeah, well, he did. He drove absolutely brilliantly. Let's hear from our race winner and championship leader, Max Verstappen.
Hey Max, congratulations. After the difficulties of yesterday, you must be delighted with how today turned out.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday, I don't know, it was just a bit unexplainable. But today, of course, what was very important was the first lap and the start, basically into turn one. We went 3 wide, and yeah, it was all about who was going to break the latest. And I got both of them into turn one, so that basically made the race, and I could just control it from there.
Was it always the intention to be as aggressive as you could into turn one and break as late as you could? Because I guess that was your best chance, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, you never know what the others are going to do, right? But we made it stick.
And it must be so satisfying thereafter to have the pace to comfortably hold off the rest of the field.
Yeah, I mean, the car today was really, really good. We basically just controlled it to the end. It's always been a good race for us, so we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves because, again, in Brazil, it's going to be a tough battle.
Great stuff. Thanks, man.
Max Verstappen predicting a tough battle next weekend. He hit the brakes last at turn one, but he finished first, Nick. Is he going to finish first in this championship? It's just too close to call. As you say, you just can't predict anything.
No, the only thing I can ensure is that the championship fight is going to be tight and it's going to be exciting, and yeah, may the best man win, but at the moment we can't predict.
Well, let's take a look then at our drivers' standings at the end of this 18th round of the Formula One World Championship, and what a year we are having. Let's take a look then. It is Max Verstappen leading the standings with 312.5 points to his name ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas still in P3 with 185 points, 20 points clear of Sergio Perez in P4. Then it's Lando Norris in P5 ahead of the 2 Ferraris headed by Leclerc. That's a tight little battle between those teammates. Daniel Ricciardo P8, Pierre Gasly now P9, 86 points to his name, and Fernando Alonso with 60, making it P10 in the standings. Then P11 goes to Esteban Ocon, 46 points, 4 ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Lance Stroll, 26 points, 6 ahead of Yuki Tsunoda for AlphaTauri. Then it's George Russell with 16 points, Kimi Raikkonen with 10. Nicholas Latifi has 7 points to his name in P17, and Antonio Giovinazzi with a single point for P18. Then it's Mick Schumacher, Robert Kubica and Nikita Mazepin in 21st position. Of course, 21 drivers because Robert Kubica has been driving this year as well. Let's take a look at the Constructors' Championship then. Seriously close at the top. Mercedes still hanging on by a thread, and by a thread I mean one single point. 478.5 points to Red Bull's 477.5. Then it's Ferrari in P3, managing to hold off McLaren. They are in P4. Then it's Alpine P5 ahead of AlphaTauri. That battle super tight because they've both got 106 points. Then Aston Martin ahead of Williams, Alfa Romeo with 11 points, and Haas still to score a point in this championship. Oh, it's close. There are battles at the top, in the middle, at the bottom. I am very excited by this championship, Nick. I am assuming you are too.
Yeah, I mean, no one can relax. It's tight everywhere. So, yeah, as I already said, I think it's going to be a good end to the season. And obviously you have kind of different championships in the championships and the battle in front, but you have the mid-pack and then even a bit further back. And, you know, it's a lot to play for. So, yeah, everyone will give it all and hopefully we'll have good racing.
Absolutely. Good, fair, honest racing. That is what we're after. Nick, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for co-hosting the F1 Live post-race show. We leave Mexico then and head straight to Sao Paulo for the second race in this triple header. My goodness me, 4 races left to run and it is super tight. Thank you to you for watching at home. We leave you now from the paddock in Mexico. Goodbye.
Yeah.